Good morning. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to today's session. Good morning. How are you doing today? How was your night rest? How did you wake up today? Good morning, and you're really welcome to today's call. Right? I hope you had a very awesome night rest. Like on my part, it was nice. It was short, but it was awesome, because today is a very special day for me. So I'm happy. I'm very happy, no matter what. So, good morning to you all, and you're welcome. We are really grateful to have you today. First off, to begin the call, I'm going to introduce myself. My name is Lorian. My name is Lorian Mifan, and I am a trainer with Impact Harm. Okay, I will be the one taking today's session, obviously. Right, I'm a trainer with Impact Her and I live in a majestuous country in Central Africa. It's the only country in Central Africa that qualified for the World Cup. It's one of the only countries in Africa as a whole that qualified for the World Cup, and it has been winners for the African Nations Cup for at least 7 times. So I am from Cameroon. It's a very great nation. Yeah, Ghana is in West Africa. So Cameroon is a very great nation of Central Africa, right? And a very great football nation. Okay, so you're welcome to today's session. Now that I've introduced myself, feel free to introduce yourself too. Please tell us your name, tell us where you're joining us from, and tell us what you do. Your name, where you're joining us from, and what you do. Very important that we know that, okay? Why? It's good you introduce yourself because you don't know who might be on the call, and it's equally adequate for us to know with whom we're talking. I just give you a detailed explanation of who I am. So it's important that we equally know with whom we're on the call. And also, when you tell us about what you do, people might be here on this call that have interest in what you do. So you have all reasons to introduce yourself on the call today, right? So please do well to introduce yourself on the call today. All right. While I'm waiting for you to come up, I'm just going to introduce today's session. And the topic is staying productive online. Staying productive online. It's a very important topic, okay? Because the digital sphere has come and it's all up in our faces, and all of us, literally, the tech savvies, the non-tech savvies, the struggling ones, all of us are trying to accommodate this whole sphere, trying to make the most out of it, right? But then it's important that you know that once you're here, there is a way that you're supposed to navigate around this. You're supposed to navigate around this. You're supposed to know how you can be productive and effective on this online sphere. This is simply why we're training on this topic, staying productive online. Right. So, what is today's agenda? First of all, we're going to be talking about setting up your remote office, building a productive work environment, and then lastly we'll be looking at managing and maintaining your well-being. So these are the three agendas that we're going to be covering in today's session. First of all, setting up a remote office, building a productive work environment, managing and maintaining your well-being. Now, I have good news, all right? And the good news goes thus, that Google is offering a free bootcamp, okay, for all small businesses that are ready to scale. So are you a little business owner? Do you see yourself taking your business to another level? this opportunity is for you. And trust me, it's something that you do not want to miss. You're going to learn a lot. You're going to learn a lot about sales. You're going to learn business strategy. I mean, it's not even just going to be digital marketing. You have details, you have material concerning necessities for your business. So I want to tell you that this is a session that you would not want to miss, or this is training that you will not want to miss, because it's going to be so exceptional, right? So make sure you sign up for the Google Hustle Academy Bootcamp. Beryl will be dropping that link in the comment section. Beryl will be dropping that link in the comment section. Now, let's move forward to the first question that I have for everybody today. Please tell us, how has COVID-19 impacted your role? Tell us, how has it been since the pandemic started, as far as you're concerned, whether it's concerning your job, like what you do as a whole, whether it's concerning maybe your business, whether it's concerning your industry. Just let us know what have been the effects of COVID-19 on your role. Is important, okay? Because you know why we're asking this? It's COVID-19 that paved the way to all these online working from home and remote working. Everything online just took a whole U-turn because of the pandemic. So tell us, how did you feel it on your side? Good, bad, worst? All right, let's know in the comment section how the pandemic affected your role. Honestly, as far as I'm concerned, when the whole pandemic was announced, truth be told, I wasn't scared. I wasn't bothered. Maybe it's because of my convictions. But also, I was like, okay, how are we going to go towards it? Because people were so scared. People were mainly, psychologically affected, like what would happen, would the human race be erased? So most people did not want to go to work. Other people wanted to go to work but couldn't because of all the restrictions that came up. And then those that were, a little bit familiar with all these online activities and all, decided to take it more seriously and then try to put it into action so that their daily bread doesn't go out. Others, made millions. Jeff Bezos became richer due to the pandemic. Others became poorer due to the pandemic. So it was a mixture of things, a roller coaster of situations. COVID-19 really did have an impact. But in all, I think the major advantage of this pandemic was we really got to understand the the importance of online, of remote working, of the internet and all that. We really got to understand this particular advantage. That is why, first of all, we'll be looking at setting up your remote office. Because if we're talking about online, if we're talking about pandemic, if we're talking about all this technology, we're equally saying on the online sphere, that's what we call, okay, you working in another way that is not common. And today we'll be looking at it, how you can set up your remote office. Now we're going to begin by answering the question, what is remote working? First off, remote working is simply working outside of the office. Now, keyword is outside of the office. I did not say remote working is working from home. Did I? No. Remote working is actually a working style that allows professionals to work outside of the traditional office environment. Means it could be done anywhere the moment that it is not in the traditional office. It actually works by the principle that every work must not need to be done in an office for it to be done successfully, or again, it does not need to be done in a specific place. So this is what remote working is all about. Now let's look at the various areas where you can work remotely. First of all, you can work from home. For some people, that's the most adequate place for them, right? They prefer being in the comfort of their home, handling their own space, being able to do one thing or the other while they are working. Okay, that's it. So they prefer working from home. Other people choose coffee shops because they do not want to be left alone. Would see that eventually when we get to the core, but remote working had some things that it brings. Also, some days you do not want to be alone. You want to go to a coffee shop, you want to go to a cafe, a bar, a restaurant, because you think it's going to boost your productivity. You want to be seeing people while you're working and stuff like that. Other people work in the areas that we call co-working space, and they're actually a very great option for freelancers and remote workers. But you also need to know that co-working space would demand a lot of money. The fact is, they are good. You can have a co-working space that would actually design an office the way you would want it to be. Okay, you can have another area where you're sharing and you're still seeing people. At the end of the day, co-working spaces are interesting but costly. So you need to think about that if you want to venture into using co-working spaces. Now we have libraries. If you don't have to attend a session like this, or you don't have to make a session like this one, working in the library would be very great, because they have a lot of free tables and free Wi-Fi. And since you know you're working remotely, you need good internet, isn't it? Okay, so that is it for working remotely, the places where we can work remotely. Now let's head over to what you would need to work remotely. It's very important that once you're coming to this whole sphere, you understand, how do I start, how do I go about it? So first things first, you need a dedicated workspace. You actually need an area in your home that is your workspace, that it's your sphere, it's your area that you've set aside to say, okay, this is where I'm going to be working. Because we were going to see it earlier, but your work area, is a great factor to your productivity. Okay, so it's important that when you are working remotely, you have your dedicated workspace. What the next thing that you're supposed to have? The adequate devices. Okay, because you need to be connected. You need to, always have access to the internet. So you need devices that can help you connect, collaborate, and to do your work effectively when you're working remotely. The third thing that you need to have is a stable internet connection to work effectively, because we cannot talk about working remotely if you do not have a stable internet connection. In fact, it doesn't even make sense. The fact that we have internet is one of the major things that has brought to life, or that has sent ahead this remote working. So you need internet, and most especially you need a stable internet connection. If you don't, even yourself would be very exasperated at some point. Okay, so these are the various elements that you will need to work remotely. Now let's dive deeper, first of all, with looking at how you can create your own working space. So first thing you need to know is you need to find a space inside your home where you'd feel more productive, where you'd love working, where you see, oh, this space would be excellent for me to do work. So the little tips that we can give you here is you need to avoid the bed or the couch. I want to call names, but then just always know that when you're working, you should avoid the bed, most especially, okay, on the couch, because you can sleep. You can just don't realize, and then you're no longer on the call. Okay, so avoid the bed or the couch because it would reduce your productivity. Make sure that you set up a table and a chair. You're seated upright like me. Okay, make sure that your space too is comfortable, and consider your posture because it will be a determining factor as to if you have to do work well. If you're not comfortable, you might tend not to be as productive as you would want to. Okay, what then is the physical equipment that you might need? You need your phone. Like me, I always have my phone, okay, because I need to always check one or two things that are happening around. Okay, you need your computer, you need a notebook, and since I am a good teacher, I always have everything that I'm talking about. You need a notebook too. Why all of these? Because your phone now is going to be a work equipment. Back in those days, maybe having a good phone was luxury. Now especially if you're seeking or if you're already a remote worker. Your phone is not a luxury, your phone is a necessity, it's a work necessity. So you always have to be with your phone. Your computer is we can't even talk about that because it's indispensable. And your notebook, because it permits you to track everything together. Maybe there are some things you might not always be able to put it in your computer, and maybe you want to write, of which writing is first of all very good for your memory capacity and all. So your notebook too is a must when you're working remotely. What else do we need to consider is that you need to get stable power. It's true that in most African countries we cannot always see about when things are going to happen to electricity and all, but you also have to make sure that you have a stable power. You need to make sure if you have to charge your devices, do so in order for you to not be found in a situation whereby maybe there's a power shortage and you're low, even though we can't foresee it all the time. But if you can go around it, it's always better. And ways to go around it is just make sure that you have a generator and that it's working. Okay. Also make sure to try solar powered devices, inverters. Very, very good. Also have power banks for your devices. Okay, for you to be constantly in the know of what's happening. So make sure you have stable power. The third thing here is you need to find the sufficient internet connections, because it is the basic. Remember, for you to work remotely rightly, you need a stable internet connection. So first off, you need to choose the right internet service provider. You need to consider a substitute or an alternative internet service provider in case anything happens to the one you're using now. Even if the one you're using is perfect, always plan a backup for should in case, find a right router. Do not just find a router, but the right router. Plug into Wi-Fi, and then make sure that you test and compare the internet speeds to know which is better for me as per the work that I'm doing. Now, when we're talking about working remotely, obviously there are challenges that comes with this. There are challenges that comes with working remotely. There are challenges that come with working remotely. Excuse me for a bit.
Hello, just give Lauren a few minutes. She's sorting out some technical issues. She should be joining us shortly. Okay.
Hi, everybody. So, we're talking about the challenges of working remotely. Okay, what then could be the challenges? Does anybody have an idea, by the way, before I go up to explain? Does anybody have an idea? Okay, while you're dropping your responses, let me move forward to explaining what could be some challenges when you're working remotely. So the first thing is there's loneliness and lack of social interaction. Okay, so a couple of times when you're working, you would feel lonely, especially if you're working from home. I'm just going to give you the story of this young woman who sometimes, because she has to work from home, will just turn on the TV, even though it's not advisable, but she'll just turn on the TV so as she can just hear the noise playing. It would distract her and at the same time permit her to keep her focus. Okay. Also, the self-discipline. If you're not a very an extreme disciplined person, remote working would be very challenging. Well, especially in the beginning, but because you need to adapt in so many ways. Also, with remote working, there's no employee benefits. Like there will not be a cake day in the office one day, and you'll not be part because you're not physically there. And also, it's very, very hard to switch off when you're working remotely. You can work literally round the clock. because you can do it at 5 a.m. and from 5 to 7, maybe take a break, come back from 8 to 10, take a break, come back from like 11 to 2, maybe 3 p.m. Okay, and then take a break and come back maybe from 6 p.m. to midnight. You just keep walking around the clock. It's so hard to switch off, and you're actually missing out on a lot of things. But then to these challenges, there are benefits to these challenges. Obviously, there are a couple of benefits. So, what are the benefits of working remotely? There is flexibility, right? Like I think I was explaining 5 to 7 a.m., 8 to 10. You're flexible. You can take frequent breaks, but you have to make sure that you are effective, right? You're flexible, and one of my best advantages of working remotely, you are not commuting, you're not moving, you're not getting dressed most of the time. If you want to dress up in a day, it's your desire. Okay, you don't have to commute, you have time with family, maybe within one of your breaks you can watch one or two of matches of the World Cup and then come back to work and all. So you have time with your family. There's less distraction because when you're supposed to work, you're focused. Okay, I need to get this done, I need to get out with it. And equally, there's high morale because you love the fact that you're flexible, you don't commute, yeah, you're happy. And if you're happy, obviously you are productive. Okay, now that I've said benefits for you to work remotely, let's look at for businesses as a whole. What does it benefit them for them to employ or hire remote workers or partner with remote staff? There's reduced overhead costs, there's greater productivity, there's access to a wider pool of talent, and there's improved employee retention because employees work on their own terms, so they want to stay. They have access to a wider pool of talent because you can meet exceptional people like Cameroonians. I mean, so awesome, right? It's really very interesting for businesses. So if you have the possibility as a business owner and you want to think maybe of that option, then feel free to work remotely. All right. So we have just concluded the first part, and I am available for all your questions. If you have questions, preoccupations concerning all what we just shared, because we're mainly looking at setting up your remote office, feel free to leave them in the comment section. And while you do so, Beryl is here and I'm here either. Let me just head over to the second part. And in the second part, we'll be looking at building a productive work environment. Okay. The first part, we're talking about setting up the remote office. Now let's look at productivity. Let's look at efficiency with your remote work environment. The first thing we'll be looking at is the reasons, the importance of your working environment. Your working environment is actually very vital and determines your productivity. So it's capital that you designate an area, that you find the right chair for you, that you get a filing system in order to organize your life. It's very capital and essential. Now, these are some facts you should know: that 40% decrease in productivity are due to workplace distractions, and it leads to 27% increase in errors. So if your workplace is not really it, you're most likely to have a decrease in productivity. And you do not want that, do you? So make sure to avoid distractions and to minimize errors, because errors would happen. Do well to have a great workplace. All right. Now, let's talk about this in details. Minimizing distractions. How can you do that? First thing, you need to let others know when you're working. You need to let others know when you're working, and this is capital when you're living with family. All right. is capital when you're living with family. They need to know, okay, from now to now, I'm working. I would not be available, and you too need to be in the disposition of I'm working and I won't be available. The second thing is you need to do one thing at a time. Don't do everything all together, right? Do one thing at a time. The next thing that I'll be telling you to do is avoid TV and household distractions. Put away all pets. Keyword pets. If you have a cat, it's not during work hours that you have to stay with your cats. All right, so put them away during work hours, and equally take regular breaks. Take regular breaks to irate your mind and come back. Okay, just try to take regular breaks. It's very very important. Okay, now let's move forward to how do you now improve productivity within teams. Now we looked at ways in which distractions can be reduced, but then it's good that we talk about productivity too, how to make sure that the work is done in time, the work is done well. What then can we do for that to happen? First of all, it's important to have project management tools. Remote team members need to be able to plan and collaborate on commitments, deliverables, and tasks. And it's equally very capital that they actually are able to track the process of work from where it starts from and where it finishes. So the first thing is you need to always establish the vision. What do you want? What is it that you guys are looking forward to achieve, and what are the deliverables that you want to see at the end of the projects? The second thing is you need to establish logistics for the team communication. Like, what is it that you're putting in place for your team to communicate fluently? Is it that you're prompting everybody to always be on WhatsApp, and is it that you've created groups on some other platforms that would permit them to be efficient? Okay. Third thing is you need to promote visibility and transparency of all work. You need to promote, um, employees and yourself talking about tasks and saying how it's going. You need to track the quality and status of projects. Equally identify bottlenecks, identify them and address them. Most especially, be able to say, okay, here, this word is not working and we need to work on this. Okay, so some of the project management tools that would help you achieve all these elements that we just spoken about. There's Mural, there's Trello, there's Asana, and there's Basecamp. I'm a living proof of Trello and it's very awesome, right? Now, the next thing that we're going to let you know is 70% of workplace mistakes are due to poor communication. I'm a living proof. 70% of mistakes, misunderstandings are simply due to poor communication or poor information that wasn't passed on at the right moment. So it's important that when you're working with your team members, you communicate and you communicate a lot. So what are some general communication tools that we can think about? We have Google Hangouts, we have Slack, we have HubSpot, we have Gmail, and all of them have a particular, use and come in place for a particular thing. But it's important and essential for you to understand that strong communication is actually an integral part to business success. That means it's part and parcel of success in your activity. So it's very important that you communicate. If you're looking forward to making formal conversations or formal information personal, email is your best friend. Now, if you want to quickly fire up a colleague or a teammate, instant messaging platforms are key. If you want to collaboration tools for project work, you want to have work and talking in one space, you're looking at some tools like Slack, right? Some tools like Slack to help you do that. If you're looking at instant messaging for fast conversations, you're looking at Google Hangouts, you're looking at WhatsApp. If you want to send out formal conversations, we're talking here about Gmail, Yahoo, Outlook, and all. Okay, another thing is you need to set rules to communicate effectively. You need to make sure that for the communication to flow fluently, some rules have to be set. First of all, communicate clearly. Think also, when we talk about communicating clearly, before I go to the second point, is clearly say what you want. Like, break it down as it should be the most understandable way possible, right? Very, very important. Then the second thing is you need to think about the type of message, and then the context. Is important that you don't say, you're working remotely, so there's a way to say things, there's a manner in which things are supposed to be said. So think about the type of the message, think about the context. Is this message proper to be mentioned now? And you need to always think about it before passing it out, right? Because you do not want to be perceived in another way than what you actually intended it to be. Okay. Third thing is you need to respond promptly. Try, even though you're battling procrastination, try to respond promptly, because if you're working remotely, they need to know that everything is fine. They need to know, they need to be able to get to you, because they can't get to you physically. They can't see you, they can't tap you like, hello, do some, can you do this, can you do that? So responding promptly should be part of it in your activities. And then, what is most capital for you as the business owner, the head of the organization? You need to role model this. You need to be the person that is the role model to all this for you, the remote worker too, right? Now that we've talked about the rules for us to communicate effectively, let's talk about some other key points about communications. And here we're looking to video meetings and calls. Okay, why? Because they enable teams to communicate and collaborate in real time. One of the things about remote working is you need to try as much as possible to recreate the in-person scene. And if you need to try to recreate this in-person scene, you have to look at opting for tools that make the sphere feel like you guys are together even if you're apart. Okay, that's why video meetings and calls are very, very important. They permit to connect teams, they improve the levels of communications, and obviously the boost collaborations, right? So let's talk about the tools in details. First of all, we have Google Meet, which is a video conferencing tool put up by Google. Obviously, it's called Google Meet, right? And it's a video conferencing tool. It's secure, it's interesting. The free version is very awesome. The paid version is really more awesome. You have features like the Jamboards, you have features like breakout rooms, whereby you guys could be on the main call, and then maybe you want to have a brainstorming session, and you want to, in this brainstorming session, foster team bondings, maybe with other team members. You can just create breakout rooms, and you see it's going to be, the members are going to be chosen abruptly. So Meet is a very great tool, a tool you should consider. Then we have Zoom. I think Zoom is one of the applications that took the whole world as soon as the pandemic really came out, because a lot of people were asking themselves how we're going to do this. But do you know Zoom was actually existing way before COVID-19 started? Zoom has been existing, but Zoom did not have its glory. All right. So if you haven't yet had your glory, don't give up. Zoom is a real example of why you shouldn't give up, right? Because Zoom was there, but nobody really knew about it, or nobody really thought it would be so essential till they realized at some point that Zoom is capital. It's capital for remote working. So what is Zoom? It's actually either this mobile app or this desktop app that permits you to take up video calls, take up meetings, schedule meetings ahead of time, invite people to meetings, all right? and it can take a couple of people on the call. You can do it audio, you can do it with video, you can do it without video. Also, you can have a free version whereby the free plan is for 40 minutes. So you have a free meeting that is for 40 minutes. um yeah, just 40 minutes, and then you can extend if you have a pro plan. And you need to also know that up to 100 people can join an online class or meeting in the free model. Isn't that awesome? It is. And to me, the most peculiar thing about Zoom is that you can record a session, you can record an activity, and you can always come back to it afterwards. I think that's one of the particularities about Zoom. Video conferencing now is cheap. Okay, talk to me. Skype is here, um Google is here, a lot of them are around, but the fact that I can literally record these and always go back to it if I need to be in contact with this information is so capital, and that's the advantage that Zoom is bringing to us. So another tool is Microsoft Teams, okay, because it enables businesses to collaborate and communicate with team members across the world. You can create teams and channels to organize your departments. You can utilize the chat and video call functions to boost communications. You can share documents and collaborate with ease via Teams. I know Teams is a very, how can I say it, a very used to within large corporations and large organizations because of the advantages of Teams, right? But it's a very great tool. It's a very great tool for working and collaborating remotely. Now let's look at Skype. Skype was a glorious tool before, when people were still trying to think if remote working can work, or it can, you know, be something to consider. I remember I had an experience where I I happened to be working with this organization, and then we had staff not in the country, and sometimes they would want to collaborate some projects. So once or twice a week, we're going to organize a Skype call and communicate. And also, Skype was really that feature that would permit you to have this full feel of your colleagues even when they were not around. But then all the other video conferencing tools just took Skype away. But still, then Skype is a very robust tool. It has this immersive full screen video. You can send chat invites to any excuse me. You can send chat invites to anyone, and you can blur your background thanks to Skype. Now, how do you run effective meetings? What are the steps that you need to take to run effective meetings? First of all, you need to set agendas. This is capital. It's important that when you're working with people, you let them know way ahead of time, especially remote workers. You don't know what's their plan of the day. They know, okay, I'm supposed to do this task. This is the deliverable. But maybe they have said to themselves, I'm going to do it for 5 a.m. to 7, and from 7 to 12, I will be cooking and cleaning my house. So if you want to think about a meeting that day, do well to set agendas way ahead of time. And even with your collaborators, it's very important. Consider your tone of voice. Encourage using cameras, because it permits the person to see that you're in the meeting, and it facilitates the communication process. Communication is just it's not just verbal. It's equally the facial expression, it's equally the posture, it's equally the mimics and the different actions that you're doing. So encourage using cameras and be timely. Be timely. If it's 10 a.m., it's 10 a.m. Okay, what then are some video conferencing etiquettes that you should take into consideration? First of all, you need to prepare yourself. You need to dress appropriately, like me, all right? Don't take your blankets to your video meeting call in the morning. Consider your lighting, like mine. Consider your lighting. Consider your background, like mine. Consider your audio, like mine. They're very great because it contributes to making your video conferencing effective. So let's talk about some top tips for collaborating effectively. What are top tips for collaborating effectively? First, equip your team members with the right tools, because if they do not have the right tools, they'll not be able to do the work efficiently. And if the work is not efficiently done, there is a part that you have to play in it. So find the right tools. Two, make project management easier. Three, make document sharing easy and accessible. It should not be a course process. If you're thinking of some adequate tools, use the Google Workspace. Mwah! Mwah, for document sharing and accessibility. Mwah, Google Workspace, right? And I know you have been taught about it, so this is why I say this, right? Equally encourage collaboration within departments. It's very key for you to promote these living together, coming together, talking together amongst departments, organize team bonding sessions so that some parts of the organizations don't feel alone, and equally prioritize company culture. Prioritize company culture. Now let's look at the final tips for productivity. What are the final tips? Always over communicate. That means if you don't think you're doing it too much, you need to do it too much because you guys don't see yourselves. So there's supposed to be an understanding as far as the workflow is concerned. So always over communicate. Be disciplined. Be very disciplined. In as much as you're working remotely, it's not a vacation. You have work, you have goals, you have deliverables to meet. You have to contribute to your business. You have to help it grow. You have to contribute to the organization. You have to make sure that it grows. So we put that in your mind and give your 100%. Have your tools ready for work at all times. Make sure that you have the tools ready. If you're trying to venture into remote working, understand what it means. I'll even advise you after this call, if you want to know more about it, research again so that you know your set, okay? But it's true that we've given you the most important things that you need, from your laptop to your notebook to your ISP to your phone, your good phone. And also you need to find your booster. And you don't only find your booster, you need to use it. You need to find something that energizes you and equally use it for you to be productive. All right. So we're stopping here for the second part of questions, and I'm listening to you. What are the various questions that you have so far? Any question concerning your remote office? Any question concerning your productive environment? Hi, John. Good morning. Hi, Josephine. Good morning. Welcome. So, any questions so far? Any questions? Okay, while you drop those questions, let me take the last part. And the last part, I think this is my best part about this session, managing and maintaining your well being. But trust me, it's not going to start overnight. It's a process, okay? It's a process, but you have to consider this. That's why it's being taught. Now, I have a question, and I would like to have an answer from one of you. Why do you think it's important to manage your well-being? According to you, why is it important to manage your well-being? I have responses, but then I'm giving us like 50 seconds. Why is it important to manage your well-being? I hope we get to 50 seconds. Why is it important to manage your well-being? Does everybody have an idea? I know you do. Just even one response, just one. Why is it important to manage your well-being? Why? Why is it important? The 50 seconds are almost running out. We have, let me see if I have an answer. Yeah, thank you so much, Josephine. Because you can function effectively when you manage your well-being. It's true. Simply put, if you're not fine, how do you work? If you're not in your best of shape, how are you productive? So there are a couple of reasons why you should manage your well-being. One, because it first of all impacts overall your health, and if your well-being is not well managed, you can actually have problems with your health. Secondly, because it leads to greater productivity. Thirdly, because it increases your resilience. Fourthly, because it boosts your morale and levels of happiness. Okay, now what then can you do to manage your well being? Let me tell you. First of all, do not overwork. You know, one of the disadvantages that we stated as we started this session is that with remote working, you can overwork without even understanding it. And please take breaks. Don't do too much. Sometimes you don't want to die, do you? So don't overwork yourself. Take regular breaks. Even if you want to overwork, like take breaks in such a way that it will air your mind and then give you the possibility to think straight. Be clear with your team when you're leaving. Turn off notifications when you're on a break. Scheduling an activity like taking a walk, riding a bike, or going to the gym at the end of the day. Also, be ready for the cultural shift because it's really going to shake you. Trust me, you're not even that ready for it, but you need to be ready. All right, you need to know that there's going to be a cultural shift, so you have to trust your overall performance, rethink the concept of work, understand your commitment, and most especially be patient with yourself. It's a whole process. Okay, now let's talk about managing your overall well-being. You need to exercise regularly. You need to view mental health as seriously as physical health. You need to check in with your manager or team regularly, separating your professional and personal lives, and organize in-person social meetups. This is so very important. There need to be some moments where you can just go out and vent a little. Okay, very capital. So we're gonna stop here. Okay, thanks Josephine for that question. Now, if you're looking at the video conferencing meeting app, all of them are adequate. All of them are awesome in with respect to what you're trying to achieve as a goal. But let me tell you, my choices, my best, Zoom and Google Meet. They are my choices as far as video conferencing calls are concerned. Thank you for that question. Do we have any other question? Is it on managing your well-being? Is it on building your productive work environment, or is it on setting up your remote office? Any more questions? Any more questions? Any more questions? Okay, while you're dropping your questions, let's look at what are going to be your next steps. All right. The very first thing is you can learn on your own, and you do that via learndigital.withgoogle.com/digital skills/courses. Okay, that's how you can learn, and that link is going to be dropped. This is a gentle, kind, and awesome reminder because I love you, because we love you. Google is offering a free boot camp. So if you have not yet participated in the Google Hustle Academy bootcamp, please do so. Please do so. The link is going to be dropped. Register when you're shortlisted. Giving your 100% is going to be a 1 week. Like pick it as a retreat for your business because that's what it is. So do that, okay? And while I'm hyping the Hustle Academy bootcamp, please fill in the attendance form. It's capital for your certificate. It's capital for that. Now you can equally find digital skills on social media, whether it's on Facebook, whether it's on Twitter, whether it's on Instagram. You can obviously find Impact Hub on social media, on these various social media. There's Facebook, we have a Facebook page, you have an IG, very interesting Instagram that I encourage you to follow for tips, for a lot of things concerning your business, for even motivation, for you not to miss opportunities like when we're offering free digital marketing strategies or when we're offering free websites. You do not want to miss that. So make sure you follow Impactor on Instagram, you follow Impactor on Twitter, you follow Impactor on LinkedIn. It is capital, right? So Now that I've told you about the various ways you can find us on, I want to thank you. So, your favorite Cameroonian is dropping off, and this is me saying a big thank you. Thank you for being on the call. Thank you for gracing us with your presence this morning, for taking out your time on the weekend to learn something new, to understand something that can take you far with your business. While Barry is going to drop all the other links, I'm just going to kiss you goodbye. Have a very awesome day and a very wonderful weekend. Do not hesitate to get to impact her if for any reason or any situation you have a problem. Have a very splendid Saturday with love. Nice day.